Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to make this wire macrame cabochon, and this is what it looks like here, so the one that I've made. So you have your cabochon in the middle, and this will really work with any size and shape as well. This is just what I've used, this oval one, but then it's captured using just a length of macrame with wire, and then the back looks like this. So it's then captured like this on the back using the wire we made to use the macrame with as well. So it's really quite a simple and easy technique to capture the cabochon, as we're simply just making square knots but with wire, both for the frame but also for the actual bale itself, and then finish off like that on the back. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So it's just these materials that I'm going to be using. First of all, here I have my wire. This is a 0.8mm regular round copper wire. You can also use, say, a 0.6mm. It really depends on the look that you want, but also what cabochon that you're using. So this cabochon here is what I'm using. This is a 4 by 3 centimeter oval cabochon, and it's just a blue dyed agate. So really nice to go with the copper wire there, I think. But you can use other shapes and sizes as well with the same technique. You just have to accommodate how you make your macrame to obviously fit around your cabochon. So let's get materials together and let's get started. So then for the lengths of the wire here, what we have first of all is 2 lengths of the 0.8mm of about 50 centimeters each. These are going to be the holding wires. And then we also need another 2 lengths of the same wire, but these are then about 1 meter each because they're going to be the working wires. And what I'm going to be working on here is my mini macrame board, because it has all these notches along the edges, so it makes it nice and easy to make our wire macrame with. So then first of all I want to take my 2 holding wires here, and what I actually want to do is start about 15 centimeters in from one end, and then we're going to take both of them and just attach them to my macrame board here, making sure I have those tails, and then you can just put it into one slot and put those ends behind the board. And then we have the 2 longer ends coming straight down like this, and I can then also attach the other tails to the bottom of the board here, just to hold it more fastened and make it easier to work with. And then we need to take the working lengths of wire here and just leave a tail of about 10 centimeters or so, both of them, and then you can just put them through the same slot on the board, and then they'll be ready to use. Just separate them out here, and we can start making our macrame knots with them. And that is really quite simple, because all we'll be doing here is regular square knots. The only difference is because we're using wire, it's a little bit different than using cord, for example, but the actual technique and principle is the same. So what I'm just going to do is take my left wire here, bring it over the 2 holding wires. This is just a basic square knot, and then I take the right one, bring it over the left one we brought over, and then underneath everything in the middle, and then up through the loop there. And I just grab the ends of the wire, because like I said, it's quite different than using cord. We want to be careful we don't put any kinks and bends into this wire unnecessarily. And then we just pull at the lengths and tighten this with a nice tight tension, and also try and make sure to have an even tension throughout. So that's 1/2 of our knot. Then I'm going to take the right one and bring that over the holding wires, and then take the left one over that and underneath all the wires in the middle, and again up through the loop on this side here then, and then bring them all the way through, tightening the 2 lengths nice and tight underneath the previous half. And what I like to then do is, once I tighten my knot, because if I just let go, you can see here the wire has gotten some kind of misshapen into it. So what I like to do every time I've tightened my knot, I just run my fingers and hands over the wire, just to smoothen it out a bit. And it also warms it up, so it makes it easier to continue working with and making the actual macrame. So just pull it nice and tight, and then that's 1 full square knot. So you just want to repeat this now. So again, I take my left one over first, and then I take the right one over that and underneath everything in the middle and up through the loop, and then I start to pull the 2 long lengths and bring it all the way up right underneath the previous one, to then take the one on the right side, bring that over the holding wires, and the left one goes over that and underneath everything in the middle there to come up through the loop on the opposite side. And then tighten this as well. Just like that. So like I said, make sure to keep that nice and tight and even tension throughout. And you just keep doing this until you have the length that you need to reach around your cabochon. So now I kept going, I here then have my full length of the macrame that I need to go around the cabochon. So you can see I've also taken it off my board. Now a way you can easily find out how long you need your macrame piece to be is by taking your cabochon, again regardless what size and shape it has, and then take like a piece of scrap cord and then just put it around the circumference of the stone, and then where they meet up you have this length, and I know that that's the length that I need to make my macrame. And then as you're making this, you can then keep measuring this against it to make sure you obviously stop at the right time when you get to the right length. So just like that. And that's an easy way for you to find out how long you need to make your macrame piece here. And then we need to take a macrame piece and then shape it around our cabochon. So I'm going to lay that on my surface, because we then need to use the cabochon itself here to shape the macrame around. And I'm going to put the midpoint just on the bottom side of the cabochon, so I have about an equal side there going out to the sides. And then I start taking the lengths here and bringing them around the sides of the cabochon up towards the top, following the shape of the cabochon, and do that with both of them. So basically we're bringing the ends together, we're making sure it then gets the shape of the cabochon itself. And that's the easiest way as well to get the shape that we need. And then it's going to bend the top in a little bit more, so the ends properly meet up and pretty much connect just like that. Now what you'll find is when you then let go, this is going to want to spring open again. But as long as you kind of get the rough shape in place and you know that the length of your macrame is the right circumference for your cabochon, then what we'll need to do is connect it up here. So obviously it's going to keep its shape. So we're going to use some of the lengths of wire here coming out from the ends for that. And I then want to grab a pair of chain nose pliers here, because what we then want to do is the wires that were the holding wires, so the two in the middle on each side, I want to just grab them, both of them together, right where they're coming out from the macrame. So just grab onto them and then just bend it away from the macrame a bit. So we put a bit of an angle in there, and basically for when we put them together it's going to be bending straight upwards away from the piece. Do the same with both of them, because obviously we're also going to need to make a bail here, and we're going to be using these lengths of wires for that as well. So we need these to be going straight upwards. So you can see here when we're bringing the piece together, they're going to meet, and instead of pointing kind of towards each other and one across out to the sides, they're now coming straight up. You can also just make sure that the ends of the macrame here is properly wrapping around the cabochon, and you can keep checking back and see, making sure that you kept its shape there and everything is still in order. So we're now in this place. So like I said, what we need to do now is actually connect this together, so it's going to become a solid piece. So I then just want to change around how I'm working with this a bit. So I'm basically going to flip it upside down so I get all the wires coming towards me, because we need to make some more macrame here using these lengths. Now what I'm then going to do is also separate out my wires a little bit, because there's quite a few going on and you can get a little bit tangled up with them. So I'm taking the two back ones, they were the working wires, kind of putting them a little bit out of the way. And then we also want to separate out the other working wires. You don't want to kind of put them so far out and completely bend them out of shape, put too much of a kink or bend right in here, but just gently put them out towards the side. So there we go. And then you can see it's going to fit nicely. We have the holding wires coming straight up there. So right now everything is still loose because obviously it's not connected, so it can be a bit fiddly. What can also be quite handy is maybe using some pins. If you can get some pins through the macrame here, you have a board to work on. But then we need to use these for that were the holding wires through the main macrame to actually make the bail with. So you just want to make sure they're smoothed out completely. So just run them through your fingers, if they're not, just to make sure we don't get any kinks or anything in the macrame. So there we go. So now to bring these together, what we want to do, the top two, they're kind of naturally laying on top of each other. The top two, you can kind of just push them upwards a little bit. And then the bottom two here, we need to use as the working lengths. So the top two here are going to be the holding wires. So as much as you can, bring them together. Like I said, it's a bit fiddly right in the beginning. So if you can maybe tighten this up a little bit more. Because it's not too crucial about the shape, because we can always reshape this macrame piece once we fasten the whole thing in place. But then I'm going to take the exact same way as I made this macrame, my left one here, out of the ones that I'm going to use as the working wires, over the two that are going to be the holding wires. And then the one on the right side goes over that and underneath those two in the middle, and then up through that loop on the other side. And then we want to start to tighten this. Now you want to just be a bit careful. So like I said, everything is loose. So just try and tighten this gently while bringing this down, making sure that this square knot is going to sit right at the end of the other. So almost in a way continuing the other, with the other one rather. There's only one really. And pull it nice and tight so it comes all the way down there. And that then also brings those two ends together. So we have our working wires going up to the side, and then the holding wires coming straight down. So if you need to, just keep smoothing out your wires. And this was basically the first half of a square knot. So the exact same thing as we were doing here on the side. And then you just want to do the other side as well. So bring the right one over, and then the left one over that, and underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop. And tighten that to be the other half so we get one full square knot again. And tighten that nicely. Just like that. And you just want to make a few more square knots. Now how many you make is going to determine how large this bail is going to be, and it's really completely up to you. So make however many square knots, and then obviously bear in mind it's going to be folded back on itself, so pretty much almost half the length that you make this row of square knots. And this is then the length that I want for my bail. Now I don't want my bail to be too dominating, so I've just made this about 2 centimeters long, because like I said, it's going to get then folded over and shaped into the finished bail. So what I'm just going to do now is kind of flip this around again, just so we can check it also against the cabochon. I like to keep doing that as I'm making a piece. So just put the cabochon there, and then you can see it still fits perfectly. And it's going to shape nicely around the cabochon and frame it really nicely as well. And you then have that bail ready. So now I know it still fits and I can move on. What I want to then do is actually shape the bail. And for that you can use any form of mandrel that you have. I'm just going to be using the handle of a file. So a metal file here that I like to use. I think it has pretty perfect size and it's nice and round. Now first of all, what I just want to do is push this forward a little bit. So right from the bottom of the bail there, push it forward. And then I'm going to put this mandrel behind, just below the middle of it, and then start pushing what sticks out on above around the back of it. So basically what we end up with is, when we push it all the way around, it's going to come around, and the end of the macrame here is going to meet up with basically the very beginning of it. So just come all the way around. And like I said, then you just end up with this little macrame bail with it as well. We can then just flip it to the back, just to double check. And it's going to fit just nicely there and slot in basically. So we now pretty much have the bail in place as well. I'm just going to flip it around again just so I can get a better view. See it from the right angle. So And then just looking, it's still on the back now, because obviously we have the end of the bail coming down there. So what I then want to do is start to attach this. So we just want to make sure it's completely in place, because if there's anything we're not quite happy with, we want to make sure to kind of adjust it now before we get too far. So the bail is in place, and then obviously the bail is also still open because this end part of it isn't connected to anything, but that's what we want to do now. So what we want to start doing is using some of these wires that we made the bail with to connect to the side of the frame. So I'm going to start with the two that were the working wires for the bail. You have them each coming out to their own side, and they're coming down right at the top of the frame here. So then what I'm going to do is just gently kind of bend this, but in a curve, so not like a big bend that's going to damage the wire. And then what I want to do is come up to the outer frame, but basically the very first loop that's in there made by the macrame. So if you're looking at the macrame, on the sides you have these loops for each knot. So this is towards the back of the piece, and I'm going to take this length and put it straight through the first loop that's available. And I'm just going to take a pair of chain nails to help pull it through, get a better grip on it, and pull it all the way through like that. And then the same with the other one on the other side here. Also just gently bend it so we can get into the right place, and then get that through the very first available loop on the side, on the back of the frame, and then pull that all the way through. Careful not to get any kinks in this, because obviously these loops, if I just kept pulling that would turn into a kink and kind of damage the wire and put it out of shape. So just pull it through gently here, and pretty much get it through as far as it'll go. And you can get a bit of grip with the pliers here, so sometimes it can just help to grab onto it just so you can get a tighter grip and pull at it a bit more. So something like that. So basically we now have those two wires attached. Obviously they're not finished off yet, but they are pretty much attached, and that also secures the bail more in place. So for now I'm just going to leave them there, because I'm going to finish them off as I also then do with the other wires once we get to that point. So I then just go back to the front here of the piece, because I have these two working wires still from the main macrame part around the frame at the front, and obviously we want to bring them to the back as well. So I'm just going to take one at a time, make sure to just smooth it out. This is coming from the right side when we're looking at it, so what I want to do is smooth it out and bring it over towards the left around the front of the bail, and then the other one here on the left side, just smooth it out as well so we don't have any kinks in there. Bring it over towards the right, again around the front of the bail, so just around the front of the other one. Doesn't really matter which one you take over and under. And then they're going to come around the side of the bail then, like that. Same with the other one, basically towards the back, and becoming straight out at the back. So there we go. They now sit there. So we can just get all the wires in place here. And then basically we have all the wires that we need to now also finish off the back, because obviously what we'll need to do is the front of the piece captures the cabochon because it has that kind of angle on it, but the back is still open, so we need to secure the back, but that's also then doing that while finishing off the wires. So that's what we need to do now. We now have all these extra wires coming towards the back, and the original two working wires as well, they're already towards the back. So what we then need to do now is bring these wires again towards the frame so we can secure them off, obviously including also capturing the cabochon. So I then want to make sure to add my cabochon in here before I start fastening these lengths in place, because obviously otherwise we won't really be able to get it in, because this is also about securing that cabochon into place so it's not going to fall out. So I'm just going to keep hold of it there. It can be a bit fiddly for now before we start attaching them, because obviously this still kind of wants to fall out. It's quite slippery, but just do it best you can, keep hold of it. So now you can basically finish this off however you want to. It's all a matter of really just using these lengths of wire to attach to the frame, and that then seals off the back in place. But what I'm going to do is take the two You can kind of take some a little bit out of the way. The two that are coming straight down from the bail, that were the holding wires in the bail, I want them to come all the way straight down there, further down, then start getting a little bit of a curve into them. So you just use your fingers to put that in. And then we need to attach them, like I said, to the outer frame. So you just want to look at your loops out here, and what I'm going to be using are the loops that are furthest towards the inside, furthest towards the cabochon really, and then decide what loops you want to use. So like I said, they're coming straight down but then going slightly out to the side on the bottom here. So I'm just going to grab hold of it and then choose what loop I want to go through, and then take, and I just have to put it a little bit out of shape at the very end of that wire now, come from the inside and then actually go through the loop towards the outside and then pull it all the way through, and then that can take it a little bit out of shape, but you just then maneuver it and smooth it back out so it goes back into the shape that you want it to have. Same with the one on the other side, just completely smooth that out here. The other one here, and you want to just, if you want to keep it symmetrical obviously, you can kind of count the loops. So if you look at which one is the middle, and then I count how many up I went on that side, so I want to count the same amount up on the other side to try and make it nice and symmetrical. So I've just counted from the midpoint, then 2 free loops, and then I'm going through the third one on both sides with the 2 middle ones here, and then bringing that all the way through. And again, like I said, it can go a little bit out of shape, just like that. And then before we fasten anything off, just kind of maneuver these wires back into place so they end up sitting exactly how you want them to. So they have a nice shape right there on the back. But that's 2 of them through. And then you basically just want to do the same with the rest. So the next one's up here, kind of already coming down as well. And then you can choose, I think I'm going to skip 1 loop on the side after the last one I put in and go through the next one after that. Push it all the way through, or pull it rather. And we can just get them all through and then kind of fix up the shape a little bit after. Same with the other side. Skip 1 and go through the next one. You can already feel that the cabochon is starting to stay securely in there now, because obviously we're basically sealing up the back of the piece. So gradually getting there. And then the last 2 here coming down from the front there of the bail and then towards the back. What I'm going to do with them is I kind of want to bring them over, crossing over the others to get kind of a little crossover right there. So again, you can skip 1 or 2. Let me just have a look. Do I want it to go there or there? So what looks best? I think I'm going to actually then skip 2 loops now. So I'm just counting 1, 2, and then going through the third one. So like I said, you can really just make this how you want. Also completely different than this. This is just how I kind of like the look of it to be. And the same with the last one. Skip 2 and go through the third one in this case. And the wire easily goes through those loops because it's kind of how we made the macrame with the wire in the first place. It creates these loops naturally. Perfect size pretty much for the same gauge wire to go through that we use for the macrame. And then that comes through there. And that's pretty much how I want it to look. Now, like I said, you can just maneuver it a little bit more. If there's any few wires that you feel a little bit not in the right place, up here it doesn't really match with the other side. So I just want to kind of force that a little bit more into place. So you can either use some pliers or just use your fingers. So that looks better there. And I'm pretty happy with that actually. So now what there's left to do, because obviously we still have all these wires sticking out, we need to get rid of them. So I'm just going to show you on one here how I get rid of them. So just take the top one first. You can just take them however you want to. That's coming out from that loop that we put it through. Then what I want to do is put it bend it back around, pretty much around the loop, but back in towards the cabochon really. Then I want to cut off the excess, but I want to cut it off so there's still a little bit of length left. So not right close to where it's coming out from the loop, but just I bend it around and then just cut off the excess, but with a little bit left. Something like that there. And then I take my chain nose and then I grab onto that very little end that is still left, and then I continue bending that inwards towards the back. And basically what I'm going to end up with is tucking it away, so squeezing it away there, so it ends up on the inside of this outer frame of the macrame, basically between that and the cabochon. So that really tucks it away first of all, but also secures the end in place so it's not going to be pulled out or come through, as obviously we're wearing this. So it also gets rid of it there, so we don't have an end sticking out that's going to catch or scratch on any clothes. So you just want to do this as all of the wires all the way around. And this is then what the cabochon looks like. So a nice and simple way of capturing it with the wire macrame here. And then on the back you have a nice decoration. Obviously if it flips around as you're wearing it, you still have this that creates a nice decoration on the back. But then the main piece looks like this. So really it's just using basic square knot with the wire and then turning it into the capturing of the cabochon here. And obviously you can add whatever chain you want to, but then that's what it looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.